So when I started out in music production, one thing I could not do was finish music. Back in the day, I was using FL Studio, and every time I wrote a little intro for my track, I couldn't seem to get past that first 15 to 20 minutes where I would flesh it out and then I would just get stuck. So I think this is something that plagues a lot of music producers, which is why I'm making this video. So today I'm going to go through 5 of the most common reasons why you as a music producer can't finish your tracks and some solutions for each of them. So let's dive straight in. Before we do though, I just want to mention that this week and next week we have launched our Song Finishing Accelerator program. Now, if you're watching this video, you clicked on it and you're like, that's me, I struggle with finishing. Inside this program, you'll be able to make 4 different tracks over 4 different weeks with a community of dedicated producers. Get feedback on your music as you go. Attend live sessions where you'll be shown exactly how to go through the entire production process from start to finish, and a whole lot more. So if you struggle with finishing music and you're sick of just, watching a little tutorial here to try and see if that solves it, head to the link below and find out more. Let's get into the video. Okay, so the first reason you probably can't finish tracks is because of this. Now, what I'm talking about here is what I like to call the loop trap. A lot of people call it the loop trap or something else. Basically, you're in the habit of building loops and not tracks. Now, this is super common. Pretty much every producer at some point has done this. A lot of producers still do this. And the reason it can cause issues is because when you're just making an 8-bar loop, which is kind of necessary at any point in the production process, you can't make the entire track at once. You kind of get stuck in this zone. And it's hard to progress outside of this when you've been tweaking every little detail for such a long time. And the problem is, and let me just go to my projects folder here on my computer. This doesn't just happen once. In fact, if you're like me, your projects folder looks like this, and there's hundreds of projects here. So you've got hundreds of loops that you just are starting, kind of abandoning, and then moving on to the next thing. And this does not help you grow as a producer. So I want to propose a solution instead, and let me just open up a different project I've been working on here. So this is what you want to do instead. Anytime you start an idea, you want to extend out of the 16 bar loop or whatever you're doing and actually duplicate, like literally just grab a section like this and then just like duplicate it and make some changes over time. Make a few different sections so that you've actually got movement. You're actually starting to formulate a structure rather than just a loop. Now, psychologically, this isn't like scientific or anything, but it's just from my own experience. What this seems to do for me when I go back to it is I'm like, this is a work in progress now. This isn't just an idea. This is a track that I actually have committed to. There's changes over time. There's structure. I've added in little markers here. Do whatever you want, but basically get out of that loop and save it before you do that. Don't save a project before you've gone past that loop phase. And I think you'll thank yourself for it later. I basically do this with now. Pretty much every track that I start, even in my ideas folder here, is not just like a loop. Most of them are like have some sort of structure or automation over time. Okay, so the second reason you probably can't finish music is what I like to call the perfectionist trap. Now, most people I know who start music production want to make the best music, and of course that's why you got into it. You want to make the music that you think is great, and you want to make it as good as possible. The problem is when you start out, you just aren't at that level. So what you do is you tweak things that you don't really know what you're tweaking until you think it's going to kind of make it sound better, but then it doesn't really, and then you kind of abandon it. And basically you have this expectation that perfection is the only thing you could ever export or ever call finished, right? The secret with this is though, that finished isn't really a goal, and I'll get into this a bit later in this video. Finished is kind of a mindset, and it's a decision you make. So my kind of hack for this is just take what you've got, hit export. Export it, give it a name, whatever you want, put it on your desktop, put it in your music folder, do it, boom, export. Now, obviously I don't need to do that for this one, but simply by taking your music out of the door into a tangible format, obviously this isn't tangible, it's a digital audio file, you are changing your mindset. You're changing your way of you're perceiving your music, and you're looking at it not for all the imperfections it's got, but you're looking at it as a finished audio file. Even bring it into your iTunes library. Like I do this quite a lot, and just I have a few of my, WIPs here, among my other music, and I listen to it in that context. It makes it feel like a song that's finished. So I'd highly recommend to get out of the perfectionist trap, start exporting as soon as you possibly can. Highly recommend. It's a good little hack. Okay, another reason, number 3, why you probably aren't finishing your music is that you just overcomplicate everything. Like me, we all do it. You overcomplicate things. You think that the best music needs to have, I don't know, let's go to my VSTs folder. You need to add like Pro MB to my drums. Oh, and it needs like some saturation decapitator. And, oh man, I can't not EQ my drums bus. Like, God forbid I do that. Like I got to add that high end and cut out the mids because the guy on YouTube told me to. And then, oh man, any good mix, you got to have mid-side EQ on your master. Ironically, I do this all the time. But basically, you understand what I mean, right? Like, we think we have to do a bunch of different things here to make our music the best it possibly can. The reality is that you only need to do what sounds good. And if you're not doing what sounds good and you're getting distracted with other things, then you're missing the point. And basically, you need to kind of get back to the drawing board. If you are someone like me who struggles with like perfecting everything and having to have the best plugin and, you overdo it, I kind of have like what I like to call a simple kind of counterintuitive solution, which is basically just open up like a notes app on your computer. This is my script for this. And basically just like make what I like to call a finishing checklist. Now I'm actually making one of these for you to use if you're going to jump into Song Finishing Accelerator, because I think, just having a simple one can help. But I have a simple finishing checklist, and it's pretty much this. It's final tweaks. This is me going and tweaking my synths, any sort of like non-mixing parameters, structure, arrangement, changes over time, fader balance, EQ, bus, processing, sends and returns, mastering, final check. That's pretty much my process there. Now I've memorized it because I've done it so many times, but like this is the basic thing I do, and I can just go to this each time when I'm finishing a tune and tick it off as I go. I'm not getting distracted with, oh man, I was supposed to use a multi-band compressor. No, it's not on the list, so I'm not doing it. I'm just ticking through and going like that. So I think and it doesn't even have to be this complicated. If you're a beginner, I'd even recommend, remove sends and returns and bus processing. You don't need them. Like maybe final tweaks, EQ, not even EQ if you're a beginner. I reckon just fader ballads, honestly. But that's a different topic altogether. But the point here is to have a really simple checklist you can go through easily, even memorize if you can, and just finish tracks that way. I think it avoids you going down this rabbit hole of endless tweaking. So, okay, number 4. Another reason you might not be finishing your music is what I like to call a taste gap, or I don't like to call it. I kind of stole it from Ira Glass. You've probably seen the whole thing about there's a taste gap between the music you want to be making or the work you want to be doing versus where you're at. Basically, if you're new, your music sucks. And this is true for everyone unless you've got some sort of prior music experience. This is just kind of one of those ones where honestly it's hard to prescribe a solution, because the real solution here is just time. I think apart from that though, the real thing, if you're not making music that you like, it's probably because you don't have the resources to do it. Like if you've just downloaded Ableton and you're wanting to make, I don't know, hardcore, like, death step, dubstep, metal stuff, you probably don't have the tools to make that, because a lot of the stock Ableton or tools that you can kind of immediately access don't give you what you need. So you may need to download some Serum presets, or you may need to download a sample pack that has those kind of sounds, or like a guitar VST, which has got some kind of cool grungy guitars in it. I don't know. The point here is, like, as you can see, I have audio effects racks, instrument racks, samples that are highly curated. So if I'm after, say, an effects sound that I really like, I can go into my effects folder and, these aren't my samples, by the way. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And I can find exactly, the impact I'm looking for. That's part of what makes my sound, So I think spending some time, curating those sounds beforehand, so that when you go to make and eventually finish your tracks, they end up at a point where you want them to be, rather than some vague, mishmash of random sounds, which you might get to the finished product, but as you're approaching that like kind of final stage, you're not going to be that keen because it's not like something you'd want to finish, if that makes sense. And this is what I experienced. I kind of wanted to make, nice chill music, but everything I made kind of sounded aggressive because I just didn't have the right, chill samples for the job. So every time I made an aggressive track, I'm like, I don't want to finish this, but you can finish it if you have the right sounds to begin with and you're heading in the right direction. Each step of the production process will point you in the direction where you end up finishing from, if that makes sense. Okay, and number 5 is basically, you haven't been shown how to finish music. Like if you think about it, when you go into YouTube, you're not looking up how do I finish music, because everything you're typing into that YouTube search bar or Google search bar is the steps in between to get to finished music. You're kind of only ever seeing one piece of the puzzle at a time. Like you're typing in how do I use an EQ, or how do I layer lead synths, or how do I make a cool bass sound, or how do I use splice. Like all of these are means to an end, which the end is trying to create a finished product. Now you have to enjoy the process, don't get me wrong, but you haven't been shown in a structured, cohesive way and been given the right mindset, environment, workflow to be able to actually get to a finished product. Because unless you're lucky enough to watch streamers and stuff like that who show their entire production process from start to finish, then you're not really being shown. And even then, that's one template. There's no right or wrong way to finish a track. There's just a general process which you kind of adapt to your own situation. So that's why we made the Song Finishing Accelerator. And that's why I think it's one of the best things you can do there if you're wanting to finish music. If you're wanting to finish music and be given the tools needed so that you can do it forever. Not just for 4 weeks while we make the 4 songs within Song Finishing Accelerator, but doing it forever. So if you are someone who's sick of just not being able to make the music you want to, and you're not finishing and you're stuck making another 8-bar loop or leaving an abandoned project again, I'd highly recommend you click on the link below and just check it out. Even if you don't sign up, that's fine. We are running this cohort in February. We've got a bunch of producers already signed up. We are limiting it to 100 spots. So, the offer is there, and I'd highly recommend taking it if you can. And it would be an awesome, fun time. I'm super keen to jump in with you guys. And yeah, 5 reasons why you might be struggling to finish your music. Let me know if there's any other reasons you guys struggle to finish music down below in the comments. If there's something I missed, I'm sure there is a million other reasons. I know from experience, I just can't go into a million in this episode or in this video. So yeah, thanks for sticking around, guys. This has been Aiden from EDMProd. Give it a like, subscribe for more from myself and the rest of the EDMProd team. And for those of you joining Song Finishing Accelerator, I'll see you inside. But apart from that, see you next time.